It's a Friday night. It's the Instant Reax podcast, and we're joined by Mitch Stormer. Mitch, you jumped out of the Twitterverse and onto the Instant Reax. Well, welcome aboard, my friend.
Well, yeah, the first one this season. We did the one last year, so good to be here in the saddle at 20 to midnight here on the East Coast. But a nice night of action that we had, and watching the score as we speak. So excited to be here.
And actually, for me, we're recording this a little bit early, so to anyone out there listening, I live actually in Davenport, on the Iowa side of the river. My daughter was dancing at Assumption High School at halftime tonight. So I that's when they let the little kids out there. They do a dance camp early in the week, and then they all come out for halftime. So I felt like I wanted to be there. So I covered Assumption High School, covered an Iowa high school football game tonight. Mitch, it's been a long time since I've covered an Iowa high school football game, but it was good. It was a beautiful facility. It's fairly new for St. Ambrose, or for Assumption, and St. Ambrose share the facility, but Assumption uses it for football. So anyway, that's enough talk about Iowa. That's where I was at tonight. So I ended up coming home instead of going to the studio. So now here we are. Mitch, you're here. We're also being joined by a special guest tonight from the land of the NUIC, Kyle Kampmeyer from NUICfootball.com. He's jumping on right now as we speak, getting things set up. So, Mitch, this has got to be great. I mean, normally you sit on Twitter all night, and then it's kind of just like ends in a thud. You're done and no one to talk to, right? So this is get everything out now.
Yeah, me alone in my thoughts for a while. I
suppose you could go upstairs and wake your wife up and say, "Hey, you got to hear about what happened," but she probably wouldn't really care, right?
No, she wouldn't have the slightest clue what I was even talking about. So, this was a great night. Obviously, as we wait here with the no edit Instant Reax, as we wait for Kyle to join in. He's here. He got it to work.
I got it to work.
This is very much the Instant Reax. There is no editing on this bad boy. So Kyle from the land of the NUIC, how we doing, my friend?
Oh, we're doing great. How about you?
We're good. We're good. Mitch is always, you guys both are always hounding Twitter on a Friday night. Kyle, you're usually walking the sidelines as well. But I was telling Mitch that he always gets done with all the Twitter updates, and then that's it. Then there's, no one to sit and talk to. So you guys have an outlet tonight to talk about all things. Kyle, you saw a really interesting game. And because there's no rules in the Instant Reax podcast, we're starting in the NUIC tonight. Kyle, tell us about where you were at. It's one of the more unique matchups we're going to see this year for sure. And we're talking about Lena Winslow and Marion. So give me the rundown here.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the game was here in Lena tonight, and I'm still in Lena. I'm actually at the horse having a couple after-hour beverages with the coaching staff, the statisticians, the referees. So it's been a fun evening so far. But
a little debriefing and cocktails, right?
The refs and the coaching staff in cahoots. I think we got breaking news here.
Yeah, exactly, right? No, but it was great. But obviously, a team like Marion Central Catholic, you expect them, coming out of they're an independent, but they played in the Chicago Catholic League. They're a 3A, 4A school coming into Lena, which is Winslow, a 1A school. You expect it to be more competitive. And, tonight, Lena Winslow just really took control of the game early, and they pounded the ball often. And, man, they put up 22 points in the first quarter like it was nothing.
What I think is really interesting is when you see these type of matchups, and this is why we give so much praise to the Northwest Upstate Illini, because you look at a game like this and man, they prove it. They consistently prove it. And this was not just a win. This was dominating. I could not believe Mitch and Kyle, you guys are posting updates, and the score blew my mind on this one.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, you take a look at when Lena Winslow had their starters in, 7 of their 9 offensive possessions started in Marion Central Catholic territory.
Wow.
I mean, it's just impressive the amount of dominance they had on not just the defensive side of the ball, but how quickly and abruptly they could disrupt them offensively as well. And I mean, the level of physicality favored Lena Winslow tremendously. I mean, I was just talking to Coach Aaron like literally 5 minutes ago and congratulate him on a big win. And he was just like, yeah, you know, they're already looking forward to DUPC next week.
Wow. Yeah, I forgot completely that that's next week. Mitch, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I was kind of the same vein. That I had sent this out on Twitter. I said that we had said on the show that we thought that the game might be a little bit more interesting, and I think at that point the game was 30-0 or whatever it was. So I did call ourselves fools for thinking that, because again, like we talked about, we thought that Woodstock Marion would put up a better fight, and maybe they still are a quality team, and Lena's just that much better than they are. So again, it's what we expect from Lena. Great win here as they get a nice, I say a challenge, but a nice look outside of the conference with 3 weeks left to go in the regular season.
Well, certainly passing the test on this one. Mitch, let's run down the scores in the Northwest Upstate Illini, and we'll react to what we saw.
Yeah, quick rundown here. DUPC gets the 48-20 win over Dakota. Dakota, a little bit of a slide following that win a couple weeks ago. Forston 60-6 over West Carroll. Fulton, nice win here, 44-6 over Stockton. Galena goes 28-13 over EPC, and as we talked about, Lena 54-7 over Woodstock Marion.
So no real surprises here, I don't think, but I think games get a lot more interesting next week. Kyle, let's jump right ahead. DUPC and Lena Winslow. Are you going to be there first?
No, I'm not going to attend that game, and the reason being, I've been asked that several times already tonight, and the reason for my absence of that game is because both these teams are already playoff eligible.
Okay.
So we got some bigger games. Week 7's a huge slate of games for the NUIC because you have obviously the Lena Winslow and DUPC game. You have Forston and Fulton taking on each other next week. But the biggest game right now, after tonight's games, is Dakota and Galena, because the winner of that game is going to be the team that makes the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's a good call. Yeah, I can totally get that. Man, there's some really interesting matchups ahead in week 7. That's gonna be great. We're getting into the thick of it here, but I want to hear your thoughts on DUPC Lena Winslow. The firepower that Lena Winslow has, but DUPC has played really solid football all year long, outside of one stumble against Fulton. I don't know. What do you think, Kyle?
Well, really, it goes back to what I said before. I mean, you can't really consider Fulton a stumble. Lena Winslow did everything that they needed to do. DUPC, when they played Fulton, did everything they needed to do. I really feel that Lena Winslow holds true to what I've stated most of the season. And Lena Winslow's a 3-touchdown favorite in this game. It's going to come down to execution. But we're looking at a DUPC team that, yes, they're a very formidable team, but they're not quite to the echelon that they were last year. They're just a tad bit below where they were last year. Can they win some big games? Absolutely. But when you take a look at Lena Winslow versus DUPC, the line play for Lena Winslow is just incredible. We don't get to talk about these guys very much, so I'm going to throw out a couple names. But Henry Engel tonight, this is only Instant Reax, but I'm telling you right now, live right now, he is going to be my player of the week next week. I guarantee it. Because his ability to get downfield and lead the charge on offense to free up the running lanes for Dunker, Zeal, and Lobdell was just absolutely amazing tonight. And really, you take a look at what Lena Winslow can do offensively, and it runs through that offensive line, and that's Henry Angle, it's Jake Tippett, it's Odin Stabenow, it's Pecoraro, and it's Kemple. I mean, those boys up front are doing what they need to do for the Panthers, and it's just amazing to watch because they just have so much strength, speed, and power on the offensive line that helps these backs get out into the open field and then utilize their speed to get to the next level and further.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff as always. So, Kyle, the Galena and Dakota game, that you said it, that becomes absolutely, that's an X factor game. You win and you're probably in the playoffs, and you lose and you're probably not.
Yeah, that's a huge game for both the Pirates and the Indians. Obviously they have to be able to make either team, they have to win because they both have West Carroll left on their schedule. So you got to get that fourth win. And I hate to say it, but really, to be honest, a game against West Carroll is a guaranteed win. So you got to get that win next week to get number 4. And then you got number 5. Dakota still has Fulton left on the schedule. I can't remember who Galena still has left on schedule, but they got one of the top 3. Either it's not Lena, so it's got to be DUPC or Fulton as well. So either way, you have this. The Galena Dakota game is the game that has to come to fruition for either team. And I'll be honest, I mean, that's got to be our game of the week next week.
Yeah, I can see why. I think, there's certainly a lot of worthy candidates, but that one, you're right. It becomes, the push to the playoffs, and both of them need that win. So Galena has DUPC in week 8. So that's their, like you said, they had one of the big 3 left. That's their big matchup. So, all right, well, Mitch, let's quickly give us the 8-man scores as long as we're still, talking NUIC football. We got Kyle here.
Yeah, just a couple tonight. It appears Amboy, a 26-12 winner over Hiawatha. Nice win for Amboy there.
Yeah, that's a nice win for Amboy.
Polo, 48, Prairie City 6. And then we had West Prairie getting the win over Galva, 49-14.
So, Kyle, am I correct? Was Hiawatha 5-0 going into last week, and now they've lost twice to the NUIC, correct?
I think that's right.
4-0 going into last week.
Sorry, yep.
But yes, back-to-back losses to Polo and now Amboy.
Yeah. So again, you look at, around the Northwest Upstate Illini, and when these teams that had a good record come in and, and they're getting knocked off, and I just look at some of the records in this area be deceiving because, they're beating each other once in a while. So I think me and Mitch, I think, kind of agree. The 8-man playoffs might be the most interesting when we get to talking about the postseason. I think the 8-man playoffs are just going to be, every round is going to be great football games.
Well, I would have to agree once you get to the quarterfinal round. I think the first round, you're going to see a lot of blowouts as expected. But I think the way that the current playoff format is shaping up, we're going to definitely see that top 6 and throw Hiawatha in there because, I mean, obviously with strong contests against both Polo and Amboy, they're not in the top 6, but they're definitely at that number 7 spot, in my opinion. And, you get those top 7 away from each other. Now you're getting those big games in that quarterfinal and leading into that semifinal matchups. And I agree. The 8-man playoffs are going to be off the – we're definitely going to see a true playoff with best teams truly meeting up in the further rounds to make a great state championship when we get to Monmouth College.
All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Kyle. I know we love the NUIC and we love, bragging about how good it is, but is Milford Cisna Park and Decatur Lutheran, are they the best two teams in 8-man football?
Well, I know that you're very high on the West Central Heat, and I've
That
talked to
that's another one that I would toss in there. But
and I've talked to
they haven't been tested yet, I don't think.
they have not been tested. No, they have Akron tomorrow yet, which I don't think they're going to get much of a huge test there. Akron likes to throw the ball a bit, so we'll see what kind of defense West Central can put on. Speed wise, I would definitely give the go ahead and the favorite to West Central. They're going to have a lot more speed than Akron has, especially with Drosy. I mean, that kid's just phenomenal. But they have Milledgeville coming up, they have Amboy coming up, and you take a look at those matchups, they're huge, obviously top 6 matchups. But you talk to different coaches and they feel that West Central may possibly be the number 1 team. Now, in my opinion, in order to be in that area, you have to beat one of those teams. So they have to be able to beat Milledgeville and or Amboy to show that they can compete with an MCP or a Decatur Lutheran.
I think we're going to learn a lot, yes, about that West Central team in the next 3 weeks, which is great because come playoff time, I think we'll have a little bit more sorted out, a little clearer picture. But either way, it's good stuff. Kyle, anything else we got from you from the land of the land of champions up there in the NUIC?
Oh man, I tell you what, I was taking a look at a couple messages that were coming through tonight, and quite a few people were sitting here saying that the NUIC is definitely top heavy. You take a look at the Freeman ratings, and even this year they kind of have them separated out in different groups. And NUIC in the 11-man, it literally is Lena Winslow here, and then you got DUPC and Fulton down here, and then everybody else below. And it's really shaping up that way. As far as 8-man, I tell you what, I took a look at it earlier today before games started being played, and the top 6 were all within 5 points of each other. That tells me that all 6 of those teams, any given Friday, they can compete with each other, which is exactly what I blasted out on Twitter earlier this week, and it still holds true today.
Yep, absolutely. Great stuff. Kyle, we're going to move into the Western Big Six. If you want to stick around, you can. But if you have, pressing engagements out there, I understand as well.
I'll drop off, fellas. It's been great. It was a fun night of football. I can't wait to hear what you guys got to discuss with the Western Big Six and the track and the Lincoln Trail. So you guys have a good night.
Hey, it's Kyle. It's only about a month away before I'm headed your direction for a Friday night or a high school football preview show.
Yes, it is. I can't wait. We got that coming up October 22nd. You're not wrong there. It's like 4 weeks away.
I'm ready. I'm ready to make the road trip.
I'm getting prepared for you, man.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. All
Thanks,
right.
Kyle.
Thanks. See you, buddy.
Fellas. Have a good one.
Mitch, let's move into the Western Big Six now. Okay, if you're on the Instant Reax, Mitch, I already told you got to beat Brian Stocking tonight, right?
Right.
All right, so you gotta read through the scores and.
Yeah, let me pull up my notebooks from 1967 with points history and winners and this, that, and the other thing. How many teams, streaks of away games in the series, whatever. No, I don't have that. Quick rundown, then we'll go through it individually here. Sterling, game of the year candidate here, Greg, 34-28 over Quincy in overtime. Excellent game that we'll get into in just a second. The three other scores here. Rock Island gets the win over Galesburg, 34-14. Geneseo, nice win for them, 47-0 over Alleman. And Moline gets the win. Take that, Brian Stocking, 47-14.
I was gonna make the joke about. I wish I could remember who said UT was gonna win this game, and then you took it right there and went for it. Yeah. tough road for UT. I'm not making fun of that, but yeah, Stocking had that bold prediction, and he didn't quite work out for him. But
We can start there, because again they showed some flashes. I even think Moline. I don't even know if Moline played all that great, because at one time I saw they hit 14 penalties for like 145 yards, something like that. So I think there were openings there for UT to maybe take advantage of. But again, they played well. They just haven't been able to do it throughout an entire game this year. So for Moline, again, it was what they've done all year, right? A great offensive performance. Really big games from Riley Fuller and Grant Sibley tonight. They get to 5-1, so they obviously get that qualifying win, and we'll be seeing them in the playoffs again this year.
Well, we'll be seeing them in the playoffs, but before they get there, it now seems like they're on a collision course with Sterling, which we kind of thought might happen at the beginning of the season. And here we are. Sterling 34-28, like you mentioned. Let's go through it, Mitch. You kind of had your eyes on this one all night. This was a great game.
Yeah. Like I said, this is a game of the year candidate that we'll talk about at the end of the year. Certainly a game that lived up to the hype. Two really good teams. We expected Sterling to be here. We maybe didn't expect Quincy. I don't know if Braden Little's, ascension was expected this year, but regardless, great game. They alternated scores all the way through. So, no team had a 2-score lead at any point in this game. Sterling went up 28-21 on a Cale Ryan. I think it was 46-yard scramble. And then Quincy's Jarius Rice returned the on-swing kickoff to make it 28-28.
Man, that kid's good.
Yeah, with just under 4 to play. The big one that I had an eye on in this one was JP Schilling went out with an injury or something. I'm not going to speculate. I don't know, but he did sit out a quarter. Did come back, so hopefully that's not a concern for Sterling. Sterling would go on to score first in overtime. Their PAT was blocked, so that kind of left an opening for Quincy.
Yeah.
But give credit to the Sterling defense. They get Quincy to a 4th and goal situation from the 4. Braden Little had a look. I don't know who he was throwing it to. Gregory Quince had 3 touchdowns tonight, so I couldn't tell if that was who he was throwing to here. The throw, it was tipped. It was just high, something, but just out of the hands of the intended receiver that would have kept this game. It would have tied it, and then potentially a PAT would have won it. But looking forward to seeing the highlights from this one, because this game looked like it, again, lived up to the billing.
Well, I was just going to say it's not the outcome he probably wanted, but shout out to Don O'Brien, our buddy down in Quincy. He had the video skills. He was getting the final play, so we were able to see that in our Twitter feed.
Yeah, if anyone's listening to this either tonight or tomorrow morning, we did retweet that or check out his coverage, because he was all over it tonight. Had a great video of that final play. So, but again, great game. Doesn't change my perspectives on Quincy. I think that they will get to the playoffs, and certainly for Sterling, like you said, now we're looking at a week 8 for the Western Big Six crown here with Moline.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Mitch, how about Quantarian Brooks? He's pretty good, right?
Yeah, I would say unreal numbers last week. He does it again this week. He had 184 yards in the first half. At the half, he was. Hey,
if he's putting up numbers like that, he should play for Princeton, right?
Yeah, you fit right in. He was their main offense. Galesburg was keeping it a little bit closer in the first half. Rocky scored twice in the fourth quarter to really pull away here. But yeah, Quantarian Brooks 213 yards and 3 scores in this one. The Rocky D, though, we've talked about them, throughout the season as sometimes they've played poorly. Recently, they've been playing a lot better. They intercept Galesburg quarterback Tristan Legate 3 times in this one to keep the Silver Streaks at bay. So that moves Rock Island to 4-2, and they've got the 3 best teams in the conference left. They got Sterling, Geneseo, and Quincy in that order left. So they've got to find a win there. And I think if they play the way that they did here tonight, the way they did last week against UT, with that offense kind of clicking a little more than it was, I think they'll find one in those 3 games, but that's a pretty hard slate to go through.
Yeah. I mean, just the threat to score at all times, which Brooks is,
Yeah.
And just that high powered offense, I think, yeah, I mean, that's got to be seen as a threat to the teams that you referenced that we think are some of the better teams in the Western Big Six.
Mm-hmm.
This has got to be a challenge to game plan for them because they can beat you. They can score a lot.
I want to pause quickly because when the score came back from commercial break, Stocking was like right in the middle of the shot, and Dasso had to pull him back.
There's no editing in the Instant Reax, so we're just letting that go. We're just letting that fly.
We got Tom Cornelis grilling up brats here, and it's kind of like Inception right now that we're doing this as they're doing their thing. So great win for Rocky. Moving on, Geneseo with the win, 47-0 as mentioned. Jaron Neal, 148 yards and 3 scores. AJ Weller had 250 yards of all-purpose offense. So again, they're 4-2 now, and they've got quite a gauntlet. They've got Quincy, Brown, and Moline. So this is going to be interesting. This is going to be. I said in the preview show that this upcoming episode is my favorite when we talk about the final 3 weeks, right? Because we're going to see this a lot. That the last 3 games are going to determine a heck of a lot here. So looking at the Western Big Six now. Quincy will get in, so that's 3. So then you're wondering how they can get 5 potentially, because Rock Island and Geneseo are both there on the cusp of it all. So really looking forward to these 3 weeks because it's just going to be just back and forth, just battles every week.
We're getting into crunch time, and there's a lot that will be decided, and we'll get a lot of clarity in the next few weeks, which is great. That's what we love about it.
Right.
Let's jump into the Three Rivers. Mitch, give us the rundown. Give us the final scores.
Yeah, speaking of clarity, Princeton, 36-0 win over Sterling Newman.
Yep.
Spring Valley Hall, nice win over Kewanee, 26-15. A game that we talked about that we thought would have pretty big playoff implications. A game that the Seuss kind of echoed in terms of kind of a playoff outlook, disruptor a little bit here. Monmouth Roosevelt, 35-12 winners over Orion. Great win.
Yeah.
For Monmouth Roosevelt. Rock Ridge, they were down 14-0 to start the game. They come back to beat Morrison 36-22. And that high-powered Mendota offense shines again. Mendota 49, Sherrard 35.
So I was just going to look. So Mendota's now 3-3. What do they have left?
They've got chances coming up. I think they have Princeton to end the season or somewhere in the final 3 weeks, but they've got chances to beat Kewanee and Newman.
Yeah.
I think the way that Mendota has played the past 2 weeks, defense, a little shaky, but no one has been able to keep up with them the last couple of weeks. So I like their chances. Mendota was a playoff team last year. They started strong and kind of limped into the playoffs last year. I think it's a little bit of the opposite now, where started a little slower. Now that offense is really clicking. And again, with Kewanee and Newman on the schedule, I think those are winnable games for Mendota. And they've got a shot. They've certainly got a shot.
Mitch, can you say that Newman held Princeton in check by only letting them score 36?
I was wondering what was wrong with the Princeton offense. It was 29-0 at half, and then I don't know if Newman figured something out, if Princeton shut it down, but they do get a score in the second half. As I said, 36-0. All the names scored. I saw they had a couple of interceptions along the way. So again, a great win for Princeton as they move right along to potentially being conference champions once again. I think they have Prue St. Bede still on their schedule, which if Prue St. Bede keeps winning, that's really going to be a fun game. Checking it right now. Yeah, so they're both in the Mississippi.
Yep.
And they play each other next week. I didn't realize that. So that is going to be, assuming Peru wins tomorrow over Bureau Valley, that'll be a game of 2 6-0 teams. Obviously Princeton being the bigger school, but I really like how St. Bede's playing.
Yeah, that's an interesting matchup. It is a difference in size. You're talking 3A Princeton versus 1A St. Bede. But St. Bede challenges themselves week in and week out in this conference. They might be the smallest team in the Three Rivers.
Well, I think it's only going to help them, right? Let's say Princeton wins. So St. Bede gets a really hard opponent in week 7, and then they get winnable games, or a winnable game in week 8 against BV. Monmouth Roosevelt, that might be a must win for Monmouth Roosevelt. Or I'm sorry, that's Princeton Schedule. I'm sorry, we would have edited it out on the real show. Okay, so they have games against BV tomorrow, and then they finish with Princeton, Hall, and Mendota. So not quite an easy slate.
No, there's tricky stuff in there.
They're qualified to get into 1A. They'll certainly get into 1A playoffs, but when you're talking about that, you want to have the best record possible going into it, because of the gauntlet that those playoffs are going to be. So that'll be an excellent game to watch next week, I think.
Yeah, Mitch, looking around the other scores, man, tough one again for your Morrison Mustangs, Mitch. We had a lot of excitement out there when they won 2 in a row, and they were 2-2, and now they've lost 2 in a row, and they have Orion, a non-conference game against Leroy, and Erie Prophetstown. All games that I think are winnable for Morrison, but they have to play better. They have to improve. It's a tough road ahead, I think, but it's not out of the question for them to win 1 or 2 of those. Yeah,
and again, we talked about last week. There's a team that is playing a heck of a lot better than they did last year. There's no question that they're way better than last year. And it's a team that only has 4 seniors. So I do think that if they make the playoffs, if they don't, they're really setting themselves up to be a good team next year. They were up 14-0 in this game. That's not easy to do against Rock Ridge. Rock Ridge came back, took the lead, never looked back. Could it be some injury issues? We don't know for Rock Ridge. We certainly hope not. But regardless, they moved to 5-1, so they'll be back in the playoffs again this year. And since that loss to Princeton, they've looked really, really good.
I was going to say they're rolling right along now. That's their 5th win in a row.
Yep.
And I think what really impresses me about it is, sometimes when you come out and get smacked in the mouth right away, it's sometimes it's hard to recover from that. And they certainly rose to the occasion. They come away with a big win. I'm impressed with what Rock Ridge is doing on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And last year, I felt like defensively, they were giving up too many points. They weren't getting enough stops. This year, they've shored some of that up, it seems like, and that's a good thing moving forward. They have Sherrard next week, Kewanee, and Orion. So I think a couple toss-up games in there, but a manageable schedule. They could end up with a 1-loss record.
Yeah, that was Rock Ridge's remaining schedule.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think they'll be 8-1 the way that they've been playing. So
yeah. All right. What else? We've talked through it here. Monmouth Roosevelt. This was a game that was huge for them. They needed this win, and they got it. Last year, they played a really tight game with Orion, I believe. This year, they kind of leave no doubt in this one. This is a huge win because I was going to look ahead on their schedule, but it's what we talked about. Both these teams were desperate for a win, and Monmouth Roosevelt comes away with it.
Yeah, again, a game that we and the Seuss talked about. Kind of it's a big game for playoff implications here. And I put out on Twitter tonight, this was the type of performance we expected from Monmouth Roosevelt all season, and we haven't really seen it.
Yep.
But now they're 4-3. That includes their forfeit win next week.
Sure. Yep.
I'm looking at week 8 against Erie Prophetstown as a must-win for them in order to get into the playoffs. Because I think they have Princeton left and somebody else. Okay,
that's all. They have a win next week, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I don't mean any disrespect. I just don't see them winning against Princeton. So that week 8 against Erie Prophetstown, very, very big game.
Yep. And I was talking to someone this week about when that Riverdale, how the schedule shaped out. Where does your Riverdale bye fall in the Three Rivers? I think if you're a team like Monmouth Roosevelt, this is a great week for it. Yeah, you're getting later in the season. Let guys take a week off to kind of rest up a little bit, get healthy, and then you got that 2-game push. Obviously, the Princeton game is a is a huge task to take them on. But leading into that Erie Prophetstown game the week before that in week 8, it's nice to come off a bye week, I would think, to give yourself time to get healed up and to game plan and prep. So who knows? I mean, there's something to be said about momentum too, and you want to ride that momentum. But man, I think in the sport of football, you want to get healthy too. So, all right, Mitch, tomorrow. So as people are listening to this, these games are probably already happening.
Did we miss the Hall game? I think we didn't talk about the Hall game.
Okay, yeah. Hall 26-15 winner over Kewanee.
Yeah, they led 20-0 at half and looked like, a performance that Hall's kind of been doing recently. Kewanee made a late push, but Hall was able to hold on. So now Hall sits at 3-3. I think what they have left, they have a shot at 2 more wins to get to 5. So I think that would be a really big success story for Hall. What were they, 2-7 last year?
I think just gonna look it up, but that sounds right.
I'm pretty sure they were 2-7. They beat Morrison and maybe Sherrard. So yeah, that'd be a great turnaround for them with a new coach in there in the first year. So
they were 1-8 a year ago.
1-8, and their only win was Morrison. So yeah, great turnaround here. So yeah, again, 3-3. I think they have a shot to get to 5. And that's again what makes these next 3 weeks really, really exciting.
So Saturday's games: Bureau Valley at Peru St. Bede. Harvard comes to Erie Prophetstown in a non-conference game. So those are both on Saturday. Mitch, let's talk LTC. How about a little Lincoln Trail chaos? We got
some surprises here. The big one, Anawan Wethersfield gets the 27-19 win over Knoxville to move to 5-1. Rova, great win here, 34-13 over Stark County to get their 4th win. It was a tight one early with Mercer County, and Princeville was 14-14 at the break. Mercer County then took control, 51-14 winners, and Havana gets the out-of-conference win over A-Town, 47-20.
So the game we talked a lot about being a really important game, Stark County, Rova Williamsfield. So Rova Williamsfield comes away with the win. They're now sitting at 4-2. They have United next week. Then they have Anawan Wethersfield and Knoxville. So I would think that next week is a win for them, which pushes them to 5.
Probably
they will be a playoff team. And actually, what's interesting, Mitch, I noticed that this week. So in years past, when Rova and Williamsfield were in the co-op with Galva, they were mid-county. That pushed them up to like the 3A playoffs. But now they've dropped Galva's out on their own doing 8-man football. So I believe when I looked at it, I'm going to look it up real quick because this is the Instant Reax and we don't edit. If you look
they got much better uniforms now. That's why they're winning.
There you go.
Get that mid-county logo out of here.
Okay, no. Mid-county had a great helmet in like the middle portion of their co-op.
You're right. The last iteration where it was just like an oval thing. No, that's out.
That one didn't work for me. But so the interesting note, they were a 3A playoff team a few years ago when they were mid-county. Now when Galva's not involved in the co-op, that puts Rova right in the middle of the Class 1A playoffs. So that's a completely different animal.
And that's a conversation that maybe we will take up the bulk of our show on Monday night, because we're going through recaps probably more than a normal Instant Reax does.
Yeah.
But I think what we're going to run into in playoffs now is you're going to see a lot of really close enrollment cutoffs. You're going to see teams that are 4 and 5 getting into the playoffs. So I think it's real. We're even talking bigger schools. There's some sort of way that Sacred Heart Griffin would play in 3A or something. Like, it's just absurd.
I heard that. Yeah.
I think it's going to get messy a little bit, but if you add Rova to a 1A bracket, my God, it just makes it that much more unreal of a group of talented teams. So, I do think they'll get their 5th win next week over United. I don't know the way the way Anawan Wethersfield and the way Knoxville are playing that they would get wins there. So, Yeah, but regardless, a good win here over a really good Stark County team. So
Yeah.
good for Rova.
So on the flip side, Stark County now has their work cut out for them. They're sitting at 4-2 right now. They have on the road at Anawan Weathersfield, on the road at Mercer County before they come home for a week 9 game against Princeville. So
Oof.
I think if we're being realistic,
it's going to come down to
week
9.
It comes down to week 9 against Princeville.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean,
which is a winnable game for Rova.
Yep.
So,
for Stark County. Winnable game for Stark County.
Or Stark County, I'm sorry. Yep. Yeah. So, you should not necessarily ever want it to come down to that final week. We see it every year, right? So, yeah.
Now, I was joking about, LTC being Lincoln Trail Chaos. How about Stark County going on the road and getting one of those wins? That really becomes chaos.
Could be. Because I don't want to know how do I put it. I didn't think anyone Weathersfield would win tonight. It doesn't surprise me that they did. I just didn't think that they would. So again, 27-19 winners over Knoxville. I was catching the highlights of this as we were talking. It looked like Knoxville had a shot in the end zone as time expired, and it got batted away or it was incomplete, whatever it was. But I think Camille was at this game tonight, so they probably have full highlights from that game.
Okay.
But, so now Weathersfield unbeaten in the LTC, 5-1, playoff eligible. Good for the Titans.
Yeah, tough loss for Knoxville, losing 2 in a row.
Yeah.
After losing to DUPC last week, they now have at home Illini West, who was 2-3 going into this week. I don't know what they did tonight. You have A-Town at 1-4, and then you have Roval Williamsfield to end your season. So the schedule is manageable from this point out.
They should get to at least 6.
Yep.
And they'll be fine. So now we're looking if once again if another conference here that can get 5 teams in, certainly kind of looks that way. So yeah.
Let's look quickly. United is at home tomorrow against Walther Christian. So Monmouth United is struggling at 0-5. Walther Christian also struggling at 0-5. So hopefully the Red Storm can come away and get their first win of the season tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mitch, I think we've covered all of our local teams, but you had some big games from around the state of Illinois. Let's talk through them. Oh my gosh, one score immediately stands out to me, but let's get into them.
Yeah, first and foremost, nice win for Pleasant Plains. We talked about them last week, and certainly if you're following the sport, you know the story of Jaden Wiesenmeyer and his ongoing recovery. So nice win for Pleasant Plains, 43-12 over Pittsfield. I did see that there were teams this week wearing stickers. I don't remember what the saying is, if it's Jaden Strong, something to that effect. So really cool for not even their community, just it might even have been Galesburg. It was a team that we covered, I think. So cool to see that as again the recovery continues. So nice, good win for that community.
Yeah, I saw there was a lot of teams on the list that were putting the Jaden stickers on their helmets. So that's awesome. Like you need and you want to see that support among, communities all kind of rallying together. That's great.
Yeah. So the big one, the game that you were talking about, this is 3A, right?
Yep, probably a 2A, 3A borderline, but yes, 3A majority. Yep.
Yeah. So a battle of two of the best teams, in that size bracket. Reed Custer gets a 50-5. Yes, 5 win over Wilmington. So it's a great win for Reed Custer. Elsewhere, your Marquette Crusaders, the Crew, defeat Leroy 40-17. Elsewhere in 1A, the other top dogs in 1A, Camp Point Central, they moved to 6-0, 62-0 win over Triopia. And Ridgeview Lexington also 6-0, a 40-12 win over GCMS. Moving into the 2A, the top team in 2A, St. Teresa, they win again 63-12 over Sullivan. And I put 3A ? Icy Catholic, they win 42-20 over Wheaton Academy.
So Mitch, in my rankings last week, I've been keeping Wilmington in the top slot. Now, Kyle, according to our NUICfootball.com polls, Kyle has had Wilmington in 3A because they fell into 3A. That's where they've been projected over the year as it goes. But they're a borderline team.
They're the defending 2A champs, right?
They are, correct.
Right,
yes.
Right.
I had them still as the top seed in 1A. I had IC Catholic right behind them. And it's tough. That was always a tough one for me, but I just felt like, being a defending state champion, I put Wilmington up there. But I had Princeton at number 3. I had Reed Custer at number 4. Man, Reed Custer might be moving its way up the list here because that's a dominating win against a really good Wilmington program.
Yeah, I think I had them down at 7. So IC Catholic won, Wilmington will drop. Byron won over Rock Falls, Princeton won, Prairie Central I didn't see, Mount Carmel I didn't see. So Nashville, they lost. They were in my rankings. I saw they lost to Carterville. I don't know what ranking Carterville is, but yeah. So this week, certainly there's going to be some shakeups, I think, in those rankings.
Yep. All right, Mitch, anything else before we call it a night here?
Oh, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, again, a great night of football. Looking forward to tomorrow to seeing highlights from that Sterling Quincy game again because that'll be a game of the year candidate, and certainly, like we talked about, kind of sets the stage for Sterling and Moline in week 8.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot to be decided in every conference in the next few weeks, and that's what's great about it. That's what's exciting. So
right.
All right, well, Mitch, we'll wrap it up for tonight. And the good thing is, actually, I'm done kind of early compared to what we usually do for the Instant Reax. So I might get to bed before like 2 a.m., which is amazing.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Right. Good for you. Like I said, we were watching, at least I was watching the score as we were doing this. So good to see the games that we were kind of talking about.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, we'll wrap this up with a bow on Monday night, and maybe don't have to get into the games as much. Maybe we'll figure something else to talk about.
That's true. Yeah.
And then again, maybe it'll be more picking, what teams have left as opposed to going over game recaps as we just kind of did that. So
there we go. We could have some fun looking ahead, I think, on the games left. Yep.
Yeah. We got to keep the audience engaged. So we'll think of something. And again, I think there is a bigger discussion that we have to kind of keep our eyes on with teams falling into different classes with the enrollments the way they are, and the number of playoff eligible teams that are going to, because I think we're going to be short on teams that have a 500 record that get in. So usually that's something you see on the Iowa side more than you see on the Illinois side. So whether that's a good thing or maybe it's a more balanced, statewide talent this year, I don't know. So it'll be an interesting year for sure. So maybe we got to start looking at that with 3 weeks left.
Yeah, and 4-win teams have gotten in before, and I think that there's, like you said, there's some chance that it's going to happen again. And maybe teams that we've discussed, teams from our area. So anyway, well, thank you to everyone who listens. Join us again Tuesday morning. We'll put out our regular podcast, and Mitch will be back. Mitch, you're all over it.
I'm gonna have to get honey or something to rest my, voice here, because two shows in 3 days, that's a lot for me. So
stressing out the vocal cords. Yeah.
Rest up here on the weekend. So we'll be back. We'll be ready to go.
I just yell right through it. I just keep talking loud, and it just
Right. This is much easier with just two people, Kyle with 3, than the normal 5 or whatever it may be at the score.
We are way nicer to each other than Denzo and Stocking are. So it's this is the friendly podcast here. So anyway, but that's entertaining. But that's always entertaining. Podcast listening as well.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right, we'll meet up with them probably again next week. So anyway, Mitch, good to talk to you. We will we'll meet up again soon, and everyone listening, we'll catch up again on Tuesday morning when the regular podcast drops. All right, that's good. We're done.
Post it.